Welcome, everyone. My name is Rick Bontkowski, and this is the AMP'D UP211 Podcast. Rob and Christine Zimmerman are here today. Rob made headlines in 2018 when he went through a catastrophic accident while working for Amtrak and lost his hands. It is my pleasure to welcome both of them today, and I'm so pleased that we have both of you here today. Welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going great. And where in the world are you right now? What part of the country?
We're in Ronkonkoma, New York.
And help the audience understand where that is exactly. New York's a big place.
Long Island.
Long
right?
Island. Okay.
Middle of Long Island.
All right. That's helpful. You know, when I think about Rob's story in particular and doing the research that I've done on his accident, his progress, and what has kind of led you to this moment, I really view his story much more so as your story, meaning both of you. And I'm inspired by that. You know, this is, to be quite honest, this is my first podcast that we're doing with two guests instead of just one. So, hey, this is the first time. And, you know, the support and the encouragement and just this sort of patience and family that you represent in this particular situation, it's remarkable. I think it's probably the most important part of your story. And, you know, very often people want to focus on, well, what happened and, you know, what kind of prosthetics is he using and all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, that's all very important. But I also feel like the story about you both overcoming this together is also a big piece of, you know, what I want to talk about today. I guess I want to ask, how do you see it? I mean, do you see this as a team effort? You know, hopefully you won't discount everything I just said.
No, we're definitely a team. I retired last month, so we're together 24/7, and that's been very helpful that I can be home with him all the time now and not rely on other people to help take care of him. So we do everything together now.
It's not easy. All these changes that happen brought upon difficult times. Like, you have to just get used to, you can't just jump into it. You have to get used to it. You have to understand it. You have to understand what's going on. And then you have to accept it and then go forward. It's not easy just to stop working. She retired and then take care of me. She was never a provider like that. She never was an aide. That was not her profession. She was a professional businesswoman. So to come in to do that and stop what she's doing and to take care of somebody else, or not, her husband, is a big leap to do.
Yeah, it's a huge shift in the marital dynamic, let's call it. So you're in this particular rhythm as a couple, you know, and you have the everyday life that you do. And I'm assuming that was very much, from what I've read about you, Rob, you know, you were just a hardworking guy. I mean, that was just who you were. And for suddenly all of that to change and challenge that rhythm, that dynamic that you had established over the course of your marriage, and to make all those adjustments, again, I think it's such a big part of your story. And, you know, myself as an amputee, when people ask me, well, how do you get through this? And how do you make, you know, how did you change your life and make these adjustments? And I always say, it's really not about me. It's actually about everybody around me. What adjustments did they make so that I could lead the life that I wanted to? And I appreciate you acknowledging that, because, partners, spouses, our support systems, Rob, sometimes they sit like in the shadows,
Mhm.
and we're out front, like taking a bow,
Yes.
like, yeah, look at us. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, if I didn't have this woman here, I don't know how I would do any of this,
That's so true.
you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, without my wife helping me do all the daily stuff that she helps me do, she should get all the credit. She should be taking the bow in front of everybody.
No.
But it's a lot. It's a lot for her to deal with. It's a lot for us both to
Yeah.
deal with. It's difficult
Yeah.
because a lot of people, like you would probably know this. A lot of people really don't understand what goes into like really taking care of people with these kind of disabilities.
Right. No, and it's a game changer. And what's sad to me is when I see relationships end because of tragedy. It's just not it's just not digestible for them. They can't get on the other side of it.
It's hard.
And for someone like yourself, incredibly hardworking guy, and to suffer a tragedy due to work. This wasn't just like some random accident per se. You weren't, in a car or on a motorcycle. I mean, you're doing the thing that you do. You went to work, and to be able to come out on the other side of that in a successful relationship, it's a lesson for all of us that are struggling. I want to talk a little bit more, Rob, about your upbringing. Where you grew up. What was your family life like? What did you come from? And you might wonder, okay, well, what's that all about? I really want to establish a little bit about your upbringing, only because I think very often in these stories, what we come from has to do with how we get through a lot of what we manage, as amputees. So if you don't mind sharing, that would be wonderful.
No, I don't mind. It's quite interesting, actually. I was born in Far Rockaway, Queens. And then right when I was a toddler, we moved out to Long Island. And then my parents raised me in Brentwood. And I graduated Brentwood High School. It was kind of it wasn't the greatest school district on Long Island, and it still isn't, but that's where I graduated from. So I was a product of my environment. I was
Tough area.
I was kind of a troubled kid. I got some trouble in high school, but then I went back and graduated and took care of business. But once I became 18, I joined in the military. I was in the Navy for 10 years.
So 18, I'm going into the military. Now, was that a part of your family culture, or was that just a decision that you made independently?
No, I made that independently because I really didn't have any kind of guidance when I was younger. So when I finished high school, I really didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. And you felt like the military would give you some direction. And
absolutely,
yeah. And that's, to me, that's a wonderful calling. I mean, to serve your country is, it's certainly not part of, my particular family path. And when I see people in those lines of service, my hat's off to you. So, of course, thank you for that.
you're welcome.
So you go into the military at 18, and what is that experience like?
Well, it was 1991. So I went through boot camp, school, and then I finally got to my ship, the USS Independence, an aircraft carrier. It was based out of Yokosuka, Japan, and that was during the first Gulf War.
Right.
So that summer, I went right to the Persian Gulf and spent the next 4 years fighting Operation Southern Watch, Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield. And then when we were done with that, I got orders to go to Puerto Rico, spend 2 years there, and then got orders to go to Patuxent River, Maryland. And that's where I met my wife.
Ah, okay. And that would have been about what year?
That was around 1997.
Okay.
Right?
End of 96.
96, yeah.
Okay. And
midnight.
And you meet Christine, and are you tapped on the shoulder in terms of it's time to settle down? It's time to no?
Well, we had a baby, and then it was decision time whether to re-enlist and go to sea for 5 years or to go home and try and start a family and make some better money.
Yeah. So
we decided to get out.
I was going to say it must have been the second then is the one you chose. Okay.
So we decided to get out, and then this is around 1998. And then I got a job with Long Island Railroad. I became a locomotive engineer. So I operated trains for quite a bit of time. And then I got hurt on the Long Island Railroad, hurt my back, and then left the job for a couple of years and came back with Amtrak, trying to continue my railroad service. So I started working at Amtrak and became a operator and a electric traction lineman, and then eventually brought me to Penn Station where the incident happened.
Hey amputees, I'd like to take a moment to introduce everyone to the liner wand. We all know how bacteria and odor can be a major issue with prosthetic liners, and the liner wand is the solution. Did you know that if you're using soap and water, you may be making the problem worse? The liner wand uses a patented formula that deletes all bacteria and smells for 2 weeks. The liner wand is available as an affordable subscription or individually, and it always ships for free. To learn more, visit thelinerwand.com. That's THELINERWAND.com. Use code 211, that's 211, and receive 50% off your first subscription today. You can also use the code RICK, R-I-C-K, and receive 25% off your cleanser subscription as well. That's thelinerwand.com.
And then eventually brought me to Penn Station where the incident happened.
Okay. And how many children during that entire span of time there? You have boys, correct?
All boys. Yeah, we had 3 boys now, all adults.
Okay, all adult boys now. And that pursuit in terms of, working for the railroad, what gravitated you towards that? What was the thing that you thought, okay, well, this is something that I want to do?
In the beginning, I just thought the railroad was a good spot to put my resume in. And when I got called, I actually got called to be a station cleaner. So I was just trying to get into a company that's established and strong. And that's what, one of the big companies on Long Island. Mm-hmm. And then I just progressively moved up to become a locomotive engineer.
To become an engineer is a lot of work. When he was studying to be an engineer, I was pregnant with Joseph, our youngest. And even when I had Joseph, we never saw him in the beginning because, with 3 boys in the house, it was loud and busy. So he would go to his parents' house to study where it was quiet so he could pass the test.
Right.
So it was a big deal.
Yeah. So you're raising a family, you're building your career, you're making all the right choices. And when you were working for Amtrak, was there anything that ever concerned you in terms of your position, your purview, where you thought anything even remotely similar to what happened to you could potentially happen? Was in other words, was there ever a uh-oh kind of moment in your job life?
Where something like what happened to me could happen?
Yeah, where let's say
you see the potential for something bad to happen before.
Yeah, a potentiality, correct. Where you thought, okay.
I believe, I believe that potential is always there. That's why, you really gotta be right on top of safety and all the rules and all that kind of stuff. But the potential is always there. For a human to make a mistake, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
I don't think that we ever thought that far in advance. Our oldest son was working with him. He was in training. And if Andrew hadn't been at class that night, this would have happened to our son. Oh. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Andrew would have lived through it. Rob's got metal in his back. And the doctors say that when he was electrocuted, that the metal in his back actually deflected it, acted as a conductor and shot the energy away from his heart, which would have killed, he would have been in a lot worse shape than he was. So our son doesn't have that. So as much as we are, angry and upset and, devastated that this happened to him, we're also very grateful that it wasn't our child.
Yeah, that's sort of an interesting equation there, in that you're saying there was a very much a possibility that it could have been your son.
Well, he was training Andrew, so he would make Andrew do everything so that Andrew would learn hands-on.
All the trainees were off that night because they had a scheduled class.
But when I got the call in the middle of the night from Rob's phone, when I woke up and looked, because he never called me, it was overnight. I thought it was Andrew. I almost couldn't answer the phone. I thought something happened to him.
Wow. So when you talk about your specific duties, you know, for Amtrak, just for the listeners, Rob, that don't really understand. I mean, we all know, you know, what a train is. I mean, but you know, it's so much deeper than that, and there's so many other things that go on behind the scenes for people like yourself that keep everyone safe and keep these trains running. What are your daily activities? Like, what is it that your job entails? Give me your job description.
So my job title is electric traction lineman / operator. And what that means is that we work on the overhead catenary wire that provides electric power to the trains. Mm-hmm. So if you ever see a pantograph on top of a train, a thing that sticks up and touches the wire, that they call those pantographs, and that allows the energy, which is 12,000 volts in the catenary, to travel down into the train and allow it to propel and go.
Okay.
And what our job is to build, erect, and maintain them.
Okay.
So we build them, and then if something goes wrong, we go out there and we fix it. If the power goes out, you know, that's all our responsibility. So whatever happens to the wires on the entire railroad, that's our responsibility.
So when your accident occurred, was this if I could describe it in a simple way, is this I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time?
No, it was the right place, the right time. It was just a couple of mistakes. And I really can't go into the specifics of the case because of the confidentiality agreement that I signed.
Sure.
So I can't really get into the specifics, but it was a few errors made by humans that allowed that tragedy to exist.
Right. And so you're in a situation where you're in a charged area that is sending thousands of volts. And is it that you step into a spot, you touch something? What creates the accident?
What I think I can tell you is that the power, as the lineman, we never work on live power
was supposed
lines.
To be out.
So the power was supposed to be out.
Okay.
And there was a couple of things that happened that didn't allow that to be out. It was a couple of mistakes that was made. And then when we went up to go work on the wire, I was the first one that physically came in contact with it.
Got it. So you were at the front of the line, and the person that was at the front of the line essentially, is going to get zapped in that situation. So, do you recall? And we can step away, from the particulars of that, just based on your confidentiality agreement. Do you, in your mind's eye, do you remember, that event? I mean, did you just go black, or is there a different kind of experience?
There was an experience, all right.
Yeah, so we can laugh now, right?
I do remember my version of it, which is not the version that the people that were around me kind of saw. So it's kind of difficult to explain. But when I got hit, I felt like you ever see a cartoon character get electrocuted? You see the bones and they're kind of like frozen.
Sure.
So I felt like that, like something grabbed a hold of me that was beyond my power, and I just couldn't move a cell in my whole body. Mm-hmm. And then I felt it go from like brownish in stages to all the way black, and then I just went out. Mm. So I actually remember getting hit, and then the next thing that I remember is being in an elevated position, looking down on the whole scene and watching what everybody was doing.
So elevated position in that you feel like you were out of body at that point?
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting.
They said that he was dead.
So there was people working on me, try to wake me up or whatever. I was on fire. They were putting the fire out. And then I went to the hospital. I woke up at the scene. Later went to the hospital and then told my wife that entire story that I just said. And then she didn't believe me, and she was confused, and then asked one of the workers that I was working with to verify the story.
I just said what happened.
Oh yeah, and then
he told me the same. So one of the people that were there trying to help him panicked, and instead of doing CPR, he was hitting him and shaking him to try to get him to get up.
Oh boy.
To wake up. And Rob was telling me, he's like, why didn't he give me CPR? I needed CPR at that moment. And I was like, how the hell did you not, how did you know that? And there's no, we still don't know how he knew that. So
I watched the whole scene.
He watched it, which is, I know it sounds crazy, but it really happened.
No, it actually doesn't sound crazy. And I have definitely done my own research on, firsthand accounts of what people experience, and different people will interpret that experience different ways. Some people will say it's a mind trick, meaning your brain is firing in a different way and you might see different things or experience different things. And then there's the other school of thought that is a part of your true self that has been sort of removed, and now you're essentially viewing yourself in that particular situation. And I'm not necessarily here, to kind of forecast, what that is. I think it's different for everyone.
I'm just telling you the facts. I'm not forecasting anything.
No, I get it. And I respect that. And your experience is your experience. My curiosity is in that authenticity that you're presenting right now. So for me, I very much appreciate that transparency of, hey, this is what I felt. This is what I saw. This is what happened to me. And there's a confirmation in that because it's real. It's what happened to you. So I get it, and
we verified it through witnesses.
Yeah, which was even stranger because everyone that I would bring it, because then I started asking everybody that was up there.
Yeah.
Because I thought, no, and every single one of them, like pretty much, I just said, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And they thought I was just saying, what happened? Why did it happen? I'm like, no, what happened when he got hit? And I'm like, describe the scene, tell me. And everyone said the same thing. And I didn't believe them at first.
They explained my story, why I was flatlined.
Yeah, no, that's.
They said he was definitely gone at that moment.
To get all that confirmation is, I would think, to a certain degree, based on what you were seeing through your own lens, would have to be a comfort to go, well, yeah, that's what I said happened.
That's exactly what happened.
That's what happened. And
so it was interesting. I faded to black. I remember that. And then I remember the next thing, I remember what was going on while I was out. But then I remember waking up, and then the pain that set in and everything I had to deal with from that moment on was insane.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's waking up in the hospital kind of a situation.
No, I woke up on top of the equipment.
Oh, so this is in that moment. You're at the scene, and you've come to,
right,
and now you're in excruciating pain,
yelling the top of my lungs, screaming out loud, pain.
Yeah. No, that's powerful stuff. And how much of the trip, post accident, we're obviously we're trying to get you to the hospital, get you in a OR.
I came to. I remember pretty much everything. There was a big wait at the scene. They were trying to cut a ring off my finger because they were afraid my hand was going to swell. And they finally got that off, so that took a while. And then we made our way up to the ambulance. We were on our way to a hospital, and they decided we were on the way to the wrong hospital. Then we had to turn around and go to the correct hospital because of the damages that I to my body that were inflicted on me. I had to go to Weill Cornell, where they take care of the firefighters. Like, that's where they are equipped to deal with like severe burns like that. Mm-hmm. So that took a minute, and then we finally got to the correct hospital. And I remember that. And then my wife finally got there.
Your son Andrew showed up.
My son was there, and then a couple of people from work started showing up. And then soon after that, I realized I couldn't move my hands. A doctor came in and asked me if I could move my hands, and I couldn't. That's when I realized, I was like, oh shoot, I think my hands are in trouble.
We're in trouble.
And then after that, I think I told a story about what happened to my wife at the scene. And then the surgery started. So then
Yeah,
it kind of
that's-
started to get a little fuzzy after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then following that, it was 14 amputation surgeries.
Yeah. So when they were, evaluating him, Christine, I mean, what were they telling you? I mean, what was the talk at that point?
Well, he was awake.
I had 20 minutes to live.
He was awake. Well, that was later, but he was awake in the emergency room. So they were very careful what they said out loud to me. So they wheeled him away, and one of the doctors came back, and he was like, "Listen, this is really serious. We're not really sure he's going to make it out of surgery. We just need you to know." So I ran and threw up, called my other two boys, told them to come. And he did make it, and he kept making it. And then I think it was the third surgery, right before they took him in, they told me that there was about an 85% chance that he would lose his hands eventually with all the surgeries that he was having. But when it actually did happen, the doctor said, "Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're gonna try to save him. This is just gonna be another debriding where we're just removing or whatever." My neighbors had come. My son was there, Anthony. We were in the waiting room, and they called my name. So Anthony and I went into this little room, and the two doctors were in there, the surgeons. So I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And I was afraid to show any emotion because I was with my son. So I kind of was just like, okay, what's going on? And they told me that they needed my signature to be able to amputate both of his hands. And I said, no, you wake him up and you ask him, because I told him right before he went in for surgery that they weren't going to remove his hands.
Yeah.
So and it was just an emotional thing. I kind of was not yelling at them, but maybe a little arguing, you need to save them kind of thing, begging them to save his hands. And the lead surgeon finally looked at her watch, and I swear to you, looked at her watch and said, "You have 20 minutes or he's going to die." So my son,
just so I understand the timeline, the period of time where you're talking about these multiple surgeries, what is that passage of time right there?
It was all within about 6 weeks, 5 weeks. It was all in the beginning. It was every other day or every day they were operating on him. But that particular time, she looked at her watch and she said, "You have 20 minutes. He's going to die." So my son jumped up and he's like, "I'll sign the papers," and they wouldn't let him. So I signed the papers, of course. And when he came out, he was, so groggy or whatever. He didn't know that he lost his hands, and I had to tell him.
And during those weeks that you're speaking of, multiple surgeries, how are you feeling in that particular space, Rob?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again.
During the surgeries, how were you
during those multiple surgeries, are you are you cognizant, or are you?
I am.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to get what your experience was while your family is sort of managing all these emotions, talking to doctors. What do things look like through your lens at that time?
Well, it felt like every day. I don't know if it was, but I was getting wheeled to surgery.
Yeah.
Everything is okay at that moment. Then post surgery is when all hell would break loose. I would feel literally like I was in a third world country hospital. It was I was just in a basement somewhere, and I was fighting for my life. And then the person next to me was unrecognizable. And because I was with a lot of people, and then all of a sudden I wake up next to a stranger.
Yeah.
And they're a professional in the building, but I would think they were really trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
So I would wake up every time fighting for my life.
Fighting. He was on a lot of medication, let's just put it that way. So
I constantly thought people were hurting me.
Fighting.
I thought people were trying to do things to me on purpose, and it took a while to come out of anesthesia, right?
Yeah, he wasn't.
We had a couple problems with the drugs that they were using to help prevent this, so we had to overcome that, and it was a big deal. And my perspective, I was dealing with fighting for my life, basically, for real.
You thought somebody was trying to kill him?
Yeah, someone was trying to kill me every time I went to surgery.
No, I get it. I'm someone who's had multiple surgeries myself, and there is a place that you go in your mind where it's not easy to sort of really interpret what's happening, because there's a cocktail of drugs going on, but also you're either managing pain, going in and out of surgery can be very disorienting. And there are times myself, I recall, like you're describing, sort of looking over and going, where am I right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what on earth is happening? Why am I in this room? Who are these people? And I think it's actually pretty normal to get in that place of just, I'm fighting for my life here. I mean, this is up to me.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, right now, this is up to me. Like, I gotta fight through this somehow. So, Christine, you make the decision, the very hard decision of, signing off, on the tools that your husband has used his whole life. Being someone that has built a career on working with his hands, and it's hard for me to articulate just the weight of that. And
it's still to this day, I ask him if he blames me, because I know him, and he was in the military. He was a volunteer fireman. He was fireman of the year. Like, he was the coach. He did all of these things with the boys. And, every day after school, my youngest, they'd hit a bucket of balls in the backyard, and he'd pitch to, it was just, he was always doing stuff with his hands. He took care of everything in the house.
Yeah.
I was like a princess. You know what I mean? I had 3 sons and a husband, so I never even took the garbage out. So, yeah. And I knew that about him. So I honestly, in the back of my head that night, I said, would he rather be dead?
Yeah.
I didn't want him to be dead. I knew that I would take care of him forever, but I didn't know what he would want. So it still weighs on me sometimes when I see him struggle, and he gets so frustrated when he can't do something or whatever. And honestly, I can't do what he used to do.
Yeah.
So he's trying to explain it to me, and I'm with a screwdriver going lefty tight, lefty loosey, righty tighty, because I just never did anything like that before. So
don't feel bad, Christine. That sounds like me.
But it's still, every now and then, still I see him struggle so much sometimes, and I'm like, I made that decision, and I would do it again. I would do it 1,000 times over.
Well, choosing to save your husband's life.
But I know that's not what before he went in. I mean, of course, he was on a lot of drugs. He didn't want to, like, he just begged me, don't let them take my hands. So
yeah.
And now an hour later, you're telling me you have to take them. And I told him, don't worry, they're not going to.
Yeah.
So it was like I lied to him right before he went in, and then he wakes up and I have to tell him.
Yeah.
And I didn't let the doctors tell him. I told him.
Well, that's such a testament to the bond that you both share. You letting your life partner know, hey, things didn't go our way. Right. Things didn't work out the way we had hoped. And I think it shows the strength that you both have, in your relationship. And again, it's such a huge beacon for so many couples out there that are faced with tragedy, that face these tough decisions. And, we were talking to a guest previously, and they were referring to losing a limb as like losing a child. It's such a critical, integral part of who you are. And for someone like Rob, who, you've spent your life depending, on your body, depending on your hands and your ability to do things in a hands-on way. Man, what an experience. And
I don't know if I would describe it like that. I'd rather lose all my limbs than a child.
Right. Well, that's because you have 3 children,
I know.
and
I couldn't bear losing stuff.
I think you're. Yeah, I think you're on the right. I think you're on the right track there. When I think about losing my daughter, or especially now my granddaughter, you could take everything. you know,
take it all.
Take it all.
take it all, you
No,
know,
but I
that,
understand where that guy's coming from.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's, you know, that's speaking as an amputee. And, no, and this particular guy has he's a above the knee amputee and has a wonderful relationship with his son. But you know, I just so appreciate your transparency in this. I really appreciate you walking me through and you know, sort of feeding my curiosity, because these are sensitive subjects and we don't want to sort of bring to the surface a lot of pain and a lot of you know, stress and anxiety. But you both seem to have an incredible you know, sort of positive energy about it, in that you have faced it and it's just part of your life now. And I in our next half hour, I want to discuss the comeback. I want to discuss the good stuff. I want to discuss where you're going now and the amazing things that you're engaging, you know, as an amputee. So we're going to take a quick pause, and we are going to jump into a segment that we do that is called AMP'D You Should Know. Hey everyone, today on AMP'D You Should Know, I want to introduce you to Ray Maldonado. Ray is a 50-year-old above-the-knee amputee. He's actually been an amputee for 2 years. He became an amputee through a work-related accident, and Ray is inspired by the support of all of his family and friends. Ray is also an avid collector of hats, which is kind of unique. But Ray is unique. He's a great guy. I've had some great conversations with Ray online. His biggest challenge when we were talking was that he says that he's had a tough time sort of accepting that he almost died, you know, during this work accident. And, you know, a lot of people don't consider the emotional piece of what amputees go through. And Ray is one of those people that is very strong and acknowledges that this is something that he is still learning to live with. And he is a relatively new amputee. Ray is also a patient advocate. He's an incredibly generous person. He's an admin on a Facebook page that I personally follow. And he is one of those people that is willing to speak to other amputees in a one-on-one situation to offer his support and his guidance. Ray's got a smile that'll light up the room, and he is definitely an amputee that you should know. Hey everyone, we're back with Rob and Christine Zimmerman. In this half hour, I want to get into your recovery, Rob, and some of the challenges that you faced in adapting to your life. And obviously, with the loss of your hands, this is a bit what I would refer to as a big bridge to cross. And I think where I want to start is, did you know anything about prosthetics? Did you know anything about what were the possibilities or potentialities in that? What was your recovery going to be like? Or conversely, like most amputees, just like myself, I didn't know anything. I mean, felt like I was kind of looking into the abyss of just not knowing what I was in for. So what was that experience like for you initially?
I think like you nailed it right on the head. At some point during my recovery in the hospital, later in the hospital stay, the subject was brought up about prosthetics. Obviously, your hands are gone. And then the thought was to kind of like calm me down a little bit is, don't worry, you know, there's prosthetics. And that was basically it. Like, I didn't know anything. I knew the word.
Right.
I knew people wore them, like amputees wore, you know, I knew that's all I knew. I mean, there's no reason for me to know anything about it because I don't know anybody that has an amputated limb. So I didn't know anything. I was kind of like you. It was just like thrown into the abyss, like you said.
But on the other hand, we have 3 boys that are connected to everything. So as I was sitting in the hospital, I moved to Manhattan to take care of him for the months that he was in the hospital.
Mm.
And his mom moved into our house to take care of our kids. But they would every 5 minutes sending me videos and pictures of different prosthetics. Like Joseph was supposed to be in high school, and he's looking up, and his teachers are looking up things, that he could use and alternative devices and things like that. So I think I had a little better understanding only because of the kids. Cause I really didn't have time to research myself so much with him. So I slowly started introducing it to him just to give him hope. You know what I mean? Like there had to be hope. So every day I would show him a different video or talk about a different device that maybe we could get or look into, or we talked about transplant. You know what I mean? Anything that I could say positive to keep him up is what we did when he was in the hospital.
And Rob, do you feel like that talk, because now you're sort of looking at where your hands used to be, did you feel like any of that talk was at least keeping your head above water in that situation?
I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that really, because I remember it being that was the lowest point. So I wasn't really like looking into like all these opportunities I can have with prosthetics. It was just, I was still like dealing with
Grieving.
what I lost. Right.
Yeah. You were grieving.
Right. I wasn't dealing with what can we do with this device or that device.
No, but I think if we didn't have something for him to at least have in the back of his mind during the darkest time, I'm not sure how easy it would have been to transition home.
Yeah,
like he needed something to look forward to. I know him. Sometimes I think better than he knows him. He needed something.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like, yeah, in the back of my mind, it was probably like, well, at least we're going to this area of prosthetics,
it's gonna be different,
and we'll hopefully try and get better.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Christine. Any positive energy is fruitful, I think, in these situations. I myself, went through a grieving process. And then once I got on board and, sort of surrendered to the idea that, okay, well, I'm going to wear a prosthetic leg and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then almost right away, I had a number of setbacks where I realized,
That's the name of the game.
I can't do this. And, I was having skin breakdown and having all sorts of problems. And, trying to find that momentum, because that's really what this is about. Finding the right energy, the right momentum to keep moving forward, because we all get stuck along the way. But getting those little pieces, of positive energy, whether that comes from a friend, whether that comes from some random video, some article, whatever that is. And so much of my amputee journey wasn't just fueled by people directly related to me, my family or, my kids or whatever. It was from, people like yourselves. I mean, people online, stories I had read, videos, video blogs that I had followed, people that were slowly emerging almost like as my heroes, the people that were moving on and living their best life. And somehow I wanted to emulate what they were doing. So doing that, I think, again, going back to that testament of the support system that you had, Rob, and finding that little piece of faith to say, okay, we're just going to keep going here. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see how it goes. And that may not even necessarily mean like I'm completely on board with this, but at the same time, you're like, all right, I'll play along. Let's see what happens. And sometimes that's enough just to kind of keep you going, And I mean, obviously your bond is very strong, just as a couple, that you were able to navigate that particular phase, because I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly. After the amputation itself, Rob, did you have more surgeries after that?
I did. I had 2 toes removed from my right foot.
Later.
Oh, okay.
I had a lot of skin grafts. I had
Osseointegration.
oh yeah, had the osseointegration done on this arm.
Right.
So I had a titanium rod bored into my bone all the way up to my shoulder.
So that arm is osteo, and what is the other one?
It's just a socket.
That's just a socket. So that's like traditional, almost like what I'm wearing right now in my leg. And your left arm, correct, is integrated.
That's correct.
So see,
so
this is remarkable to me because this is a part of the story that I did not know. So osseointegration is a very progressive, new, really, really cool technology that's happening amongst leg amputees as well. And because it's actually a part of you, can you explain that to the audience? Can you sort of walk us through what that's all about?
Absolutely. So June 15th, 2 years ago, we went in for the surgery. And before we went in for the surgery, we spoke about it, and we were dealing with a lot of stuff on my left side. So when I got hurt, I was an avid swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
So what I tried to do right away after I got my prosthetics is go back to the pool and start swimming again. So they outfitted me with a device on my left side that ended up really hurting my arm a lot. It was painful to swim. I was only allowed to swim about 5 laps. The bone in my left arm was pointy, so it was jamming into the end of my arm, and it was causing like a lot of scar tissue at the end of my arm. So putting my arm into a socket on the left side just wasn't working, and it was like really destroying my left arm, whatever was left of my left arm.
Yeah.
So we decided at that point, if I wanted to continue to swim, which that was my main goal at that point, that maybe osseointegration is the way to go, and then we can eliminate the socket. So I decided it without even a thought, that's what we have to do, because there's nothing left in my left arm anyway. So there was no real downside to trying this operation.
So how long is your residual limb on your left arm?
It's right about right there.
Okay.
You can see that right, pretty much where the prosthetic starts is where my arm ends.
Okay.
But then the titanium rod sticks out further to about this point.
Should we show it?
Yeah, I'll show it to him.
I'll take his arm off in a second and I'll show you.
And what about the right arm?
As far as swimming.
No, as far as
where it's amputated.
Yeah.
So I'm amputated right around here on the feet.
Above the wrist.
Okay.
Below the elbow.
Okay. So you very much lost much more of your left arm.
Right, I'm above elbow on the left and below on the right.
Got it. Okay.
So the osseointegration was the only option, I thought, for me to keep swimming. So I was doing 5 laps in the pool, excruciating pain, a lot of difficult things going on my left side. So we had the operation, and it took about the summer to recover. And a lot of little exercises that you have to do to kind of push down on it, and you stress it a little bit, and the doctor goes over all that stuff.
And he wanted to do it so much faster, and the doctor was like, "No, Rob, don't mess it up.
Slow down, Rob."
Later on that summer, we finally got the devices built, and we got the coupling put onto the titanium rod, and then we started swimming again. So there was no socket, and there was no pain from the bone inside my arm. So I went from 5 laps to 30 laps pretty quick.
Incredible.
The hardest part of the osseointegration was getting the coupling for it. It's so new here, and I know he had it done at Hospital for Special Surgery with Dr. Rosbrook, who's phenomenal. Highly recommend him if anybody's looking into it. But they couldn't get the couplings because they came from Australia,
right? And
we did this right smack in the middle of COVID, and there aren't many for arms. So he went to his prosthetist at home. International Prosthetics in Patchogue, and he created and retrofitted and 3D printed a coupling so that Rob could swim. And it's a coupling that we still use.
I'll show you what it looks like.
Yeah. I'm gonna
so this pin right here holds everything together. That goes through the coupling that's on my arm.
Got it.
And that's really good.
Got it. Okay. No, that makes sense now.
That's the coupling, but then that's the rod that goes all the way up into his shoulder.
Right.
That's the bolt that holds it in place.
Exactly. What kind of care do you take in that connection point between that rod and your skin?
We keep it clean. Try to keep foreign objects out of it, and we have a daking solution, which is kind of like a
chlorine and bleach kind of solution.
That's
the
easy on the skin, and we use that a lot, and we just kind of clean it 2-3 times a day, and that's about it.
But he swims too, so he's in the chlorine, and I think that's a big deal. Like when he hurt his back a couple of weeks ago, believe it or not, when he was sleeping, so he was out of the pool, and I noticed that when he was out of the pool, it discharges, so it's an open wound, kind of. Yeah. Without for lack of a better term, it would smell. It's
an opening. I've read up on osteo, so I understand that. There's sort of that connection between organic material and machine. So there is some management that goes on in that particular, let's call that.
One of the downsides for the surgery is there's a constant discharge there,
right,
at the site. So it's a clear discharge, and then like every 3-4 hours, just kind of wipe it off and just go. And
we use baby soap, like baby soap on it, or
in the shower, you just rinse it.
You clean it. Warm water, soap and water is really the best way to take care of it. But when it gets gross, like after he's worn it all day, the Dakin solution, or even alcohol, cleans.
It's one of the downsides to the operation, but it's manageable, and like I said, it took me from 5 laps to 30 laps. It's night and day.
Doesn't
quality
hurt
of
anymore.
life. Everything it was so worth it.
What has also changed, aside from the swimming piece, which I want to talk about a little bit more, what has also changed in terms of the gear, let's call it the hardware that you're employing right now? Has anything changed in terms of how many other tasks that you can do given the osteo procedure?
So the Osseointegration allowed me to wear a body power arm as well as a myoelectric arm controlled by co-op. So
I'm going to stop you for a second. I need you to break all of that down, because that's like Greek to me.
Well, why don't you talk and I'll get some of the stuff so you can see it.
Yeah, because this is the engineering piece, which is, super fascinating. And Rob, you got to remember, you're talking to a leg amputee right now, so I'm kind of like, wow, that's really cool. It's like RoboCop kind of stuff. So I just, I want to have a deeper understanding of what's going on there. That would be super helpful.
What I noticed through my research is that a lot of upper extremity amputees wear body power. And what body power is you wear like a harness under my my arm here, and that is connected to the cables. And then once you lock your elbow, you can operate your hook, and through the cables holding it here, that's what body power does. So you're using your body to power the prosthetics.
Okay.
You lock the elbow, and then you'll be able to open and close your hand. So that's body power. How that basically works, the principle of it. And most upper extremity amputees, that's what they wear. But I didn't want to do that. I was more interested in the battery robot arm kind of thing. And what they call that is myoelectric. So what happens is they have batteries in here, and there's 2 sensors that are inside here. You give me another arm so I can show them. And I use the muscles that rest against the sensors to operate the device, whatever device I have.
So your residual limb is sending signals to that.
Correct.
With the muscles. And then, like, this is just another one. I don't know if you can see it. Another one of his arms, and this has a hand on it.
Oh, I see.
And that's the inside.
I don't know if you can see those sensors in there.
Yeah. No, I can see it. Absolutely.
So I use they sit on the skin on my arm, and I use my muscle to like twitch and then send a signal through those sensors. And then it's a lot of training, and it takes a long time to get used to. And then you have to get used to the device that you're wearing. So every device has different software and how they operate is different. So you got to get used to that and try to make it look like a fluid device on your hand without all that stuff going on.
That is so cool. And from when we talk about the adaptive, kind of piece of that, what's the period of time where you start to feel, that confidence level where you're like, hey man, I can, I'm really getting used to this. Like I can use this.
It takes a little bit. I would say months to years.
Okay. So it's it's a patient process.
What I think happens is once you get a device like this and you start messing with it and you operate it, it is like taking a baby home. No one gives you instructions.
Yeah.
Go ahead and knock yourself out. But it's a process. You think you're good, and then like a couple months later, you start doing it better. Then, oh wait, I'm actually getting better. So it's like you think you're okay, but it's a constant learning curve.
There was no stopping him. Once he got them on, it was just nonstop. All I hear is the gears in my head constantly. In my sleep, I hear it. He was always doing things to practice, and he went to OT and he went to PT, and what you don't realize when you're in upper extremity, what a fall risk you are.
Oh, sure.
Because and then without having a couple of toes and missing part of the top of his foot, like all of that, he was such a fall risk that he had to practice. Like he practiced every day, all day. That was what he did. That was his job.
Yeah. And where do you think that commitment comes from, Rob?
I think it just comes from who I am.
He's
like
so headstrong.
I was this person before I got hurt, and I don't know if this makes sense to you, but I got hurt in my mid-40s, so I was already kind of established as a person, who I was, my family, and everything else. So I kind of didn't get lost there. I just tried to get back to the person that I already was.
Yeah. No, I lost my leg in my 40s as well. So, I think you're right. Your identity is sort of imprinted already.
Right.
And when it comes to taking on challenges, our constitution, let's call it, as human beings, it really doesn't change.
Right.
It's just another thing. And it's like, okay, bring it on. Let's figure this out.
Right.
And that's wonderful. What are you showing me there, Christine?
Oh, I was putting it down. This is his right paddle for the right arm that he swims with. This was all 3D printed by his prosthetist, Eric. He made all this up. That's the right arm. And then
that's a socket for my right arm.
The socket. And this goes right on to the coupling.
Yeah.
For the left arm. And you screw it in with the pin.
No socket
or anything. So it just clicks in. Before he had the osseointegration, it was so painful. Like he couldn't even sit. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't do anything because it constantly hurt all the time.
So I went from a device that was similar to this on my left side
to this.
Yep.
Which is so much better.
Right.
Totally exterior from the arm, no socket. Nope, nothing touching my left arm at all.
Yeah.
It's just directly connected to the osseointegration.
What a difference.
Yeah, but this all had to be created by his prosthetist. And then this is the left arm.
This is the left battery.
The Myo arm.
Okay. Yeah.
And same thing. The prosthetist created this with the 3D printer so that it fits over. And then you have all the sensors in there that work off the little muscle. He only has about this much of a muscle on the left side left.
Right.
They even cut out a lot of his pec muscle and all of that. So he with a lot of work, International Prosthetics has created this for him, and it's amazing.
No, the technology piece of your story is just it's extraordinary. I mean, it's total for anyone that loves, anything sci-fi is like just wow. I mean, look what is going on with this human being. And it's so wonderful that you are very much a sort of a promoter of that and recognizing and celebrating, all these really, really neat technologies that are giving, Rob a second chance at so many things that he loves doing. Rob, you said that you were a swimmer before the accident, correct?
Correct.
And again, when we talk about adaptive athletes and people that, work around this new experience, can you describe or differentiate, swimming with your limbs versus what swimming feels like now, and what that acclimation period was? Obviously, once you had the osseointegration, it was a game changer, but even in the high functioning place that you're in right now as a swimmer, how does that feel different?
Oh, it's much different. Well, you lost your hands, so you glide through the water as a swimmer. Even an amateur swimmer, you glide through the water and you control your hands at every point. Like even the slightest turn in the water will make you do something, and you get used to swimming. So when you lose your hands, you replace them. You have to replace it with something. So I replaced it with these white paddles. So they fold forward, but they don't fall backwards, so you can push through the water. So then when you have something as rigid as this compared to a hand going through the water, it's a learning curve like you wouldn't believe. You have to put the paddles in a certain position, so when you cut through the water, you won't fall on your face. Basically, you have to they have to mimic the real hand somehow, and to get used to something so hard and rigid that doesn't bend where you like your fingers do, or your thumb or whatever, takes a lot of time and practice.
He retrained himself.
I actually have spots in my chest muscle that on my left side that are a little bit bigger than my right side now because of the loss of my elbow.
Yeah.
So I don't have an elbow, I have a straight arm. So it's kind of like an oar now, not like a human arm. Mm-hmm. So it gets compensated right in the middle of my chest instead of like my shoulder and my arm. So now my left side of my chest is actually starting to get bigger because of my exercise.
Yeah, the human body is incredible. A lot of leg amputees will talk about, the reshaping of the residual limb and how fluid management becomes a huge factor in performance when people become high functioning. And really, it's a testament to like how organic we are as creatures and how things will mold and shape, and when we stick something in a socket, how it reacts, and it's all of that is very fascinating to me. So that's why I'm so curious to know. And you said right now your typical workout is how many laps are you doing?
30.
Wow.
There and back is 1 lap, and I do 30 every day.
Wow.
5 days a week.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. And I know you've mentioned a couple times the clinic that you're currently working with. Who is that again?
It's International Prosthetics.
Okay.
The owner's name is Eric Schatz.
Okay.
And I can tell anybody that's listening, if you want a prosthetist that cares and that is brilliant and
not money hungry,
and really legitimately wants to help you and doesn't just want to, can actually do it, International Prosthetics, Eric Schatz is the way to go.
Oh, yeah. What a great endorsement. You, sir, are truly a testament to that success and that patient-focused care. I myself have experienced the same thing in that I have been with clinics and prosthetists that were very, let's call it process-focused, and they weren't necessarily patient-focused. And we all know
it's definitely patient focused.
We same scenario.
International
the first place we went to was all about money and not about the person.
Yep.
And then I found Eric. After searching, I kind of walked in defeated because I wasn't able, and I met him, and I was like, Rob, this is where you're going to go. Yeah. And the guy is just
he just opened phenomenal. A brand new building.
Yeah, he just opened a brand new building.
It's the best prosthetic lab I ever seen in my life, I think.
He's just awesome.
Well, and when you consider where you're at now, Rob, in comparison, to where you've been.
He wouldn't be here doing what he does if it wasn't for Eric. He wouldn't.
No, and I am in the same sort of headspace where when I come in contact with someone who gives me the ability to take that leap forward, oh, I am so appreciative. It's just like,
that's what he's all about. Like, he just wants to make sure that he's helping you get better in your life, in your own life.
Yeah.
So,
and he means it. He's sincere. Like, a lot of people will say it when you go and interview prosthetists or whatever, and they'll say everything that you want to hear, but the follow through with Eric, and he really means what he says. And I've talked to his wife, like, it's a family, like, they're all there all the time. And she'll say, yeah, he'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning and go, oh, I can do this for Rob. That's the kind of guy he is.
No, I actually need to install this light on my arm. I don't know if you can see it right here.
Oh yeah.
So he had a 3D print a little contraption for me just so I can hold the light. There's no reason other than the fact that I just wanted a light on my arm.
I got to be honest, man. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. You're like, hey, can we add an accessory here?
Let's make it cool.
Totally. No,
a magnet on here. So now when I get stuck, sometimes to unscrew it, it's really hard. So we have a 3-in-1, 5-in-1 tool, multi-tool, whatever, and it sticks here. So I never lose it.
You're like a human Swiss Army knife, Rob.
Right.
Yeah. But if he gets stuck in the arm, I have a tool to get it off of.
But I go to Eric Schatz at International Prosthetics, and I say, I need to make this cooler, whatever. And he's always on board. He's like, whatever, like, makes me feel better, whatever makes me feel happier. Like, he'll go out of his way and he'll try to help you.
Oh, that's wonderful. You two are delightful. I so appreciate you being here and sharing, and showing so many of us that the power of two is certainly much stronger than one. And I can't thank you enough. And just with your honesty and all the detail and sharing so much about not just your relationship but your prosthetics, and it's just it's an amazing story, and I'm so glad that we're going to be able to share it with the audience. So thank you, Rob and Christine Zimmerman. I wish you well, and please stay in touch, and hopefully we can track your progress and maybe revisit in the future. I'm hoping. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. This is the AMP'D UP211 podcast. My name is Rick Bontkowski, and I want to wish everyone health and happiness, and we will see you next time. Thanks.